Happy New Year, hello and welcome to another Arkeys video and to a new 2 million credit lap time challenge on GR3 GT7. We are at Spa and we are in the Group 3 cars, but we can only pick between the 3 GT500 cars. I'm in the NSX and this is my first impressions run. Spa is not a strong track for me, Group 3 is not a strong class for me, so with all the excuses out of the way, this is what I could do within the first hour and 15 minutes. And I will go through some brake markers and you can see my progress so far. And if you are enjoying the content, please feel free to hit the like and subscribe button. It is highly appreciated. Now let's jump into this one. So we are jumping into sport mode. This is Thursday morning. The time trial has been going on for an hour and 40 minutes. We're picking up a prize for the previous time trial and we are jumping into this one. But first we are going to watch a top replay and have some coffee before we give this a go on our own. And now we are ready to jump in. And we are starting our first lap and I actually made it all the way almost to the end, but then I'm running wide just before the bus stop chicane. It didn't invalidate the following lap, so I tried to carry on, but then I cut the track at the Radion. So we had to bail that, and this now is the first completed lap. We are making our way around turn 1 and accelerating out there in first gear, and now we are coming through the uphill section. I need to lift a tiny bit. I think you can take it flat out, but I cannot really do that. Now we are coming through the first S's where you need to not overshoot it, because then you'll mess up this final right-hander, and that is really a weak part of the track for me. Now we're coming down the hill and this is a very slow corner. I'm using a bit of first gear just to get the car around the corner, actually accelerate in first gear as well. This car doesn't have a turbocharger, so you need to give it a bit of revs. You cannot just upshift straight away, because then the car will bog down a bit. Sometimes you can short shift a bit, but yeah, you need to drive it a bit differently. We are making our way through this part of the track. The car got a bit wobbly on me, and here I usually end up overshooting, and I also did that now, overshooting the S's, so I get a poor exit out of there. And now we just need to keep the car steady. This is all downhill, which can make the car a bit lively sometimes and make it understeery as well. We are coming towards the end of the lap, and now we've got a 150 board coming up. I will go through the brake markers in more detail, but we are just getting our first laps in until we are getting some sort of result out of this. Our second completed lap is a 2:20.8, so that is good enough for gold, at least at the moment, and we've been driving for 8 minutes, but we are jumping straight back in. And we are braking for turn 1 all the way down to first gear, getting as close to the wall as we can and getting back onto the power carefully. Now up the hill, and we are coming in towards the corners at the end of the Kemmel Straight, and I'm trying to take it easy, not overshoot the first S's, so I can get a decent line into here, but I still can widen that line a bit more. But which I forgot to mention, I will put on a tiny assist that will help me spot those corners as we get further into this video. But for now, I'm just using the same assists I normally do, which is no assists. And I think that is keeping me back a bit learning this track at the moment. Because I'm struggling a bit to find the right lines, even though I have been trying to learn Spa for several years already. Now we are coming down the hill. We've got 2 corners more to go before the back straight-ish thing. Let's just call it back straight, even though it has a few corners on it. But it's flat out here. We need to lift a tiny bit as I upshift into 6th gear and through the bus chicane and bus stop chicane and down to first gear. A small tap on the brakes to make the steering go back towards the left. I'm on a controller and sometimes the steering is a bit stubborn. We're down to 220.518 and I cut the track once again. I get the wrong line up the hill. We've been driving for 13 minutes now, and I think it is time to look at some brake markers. The first one is the 100 board, and I actually need to brake a bit shy of the 100 board, and this time I failed to do that, so I'm running in a bit deep. I am missing the apex, but I'm carefully applying the power until I can safely get fully back onto the power so I don't spin the tires. And now we are coming through Eau Rouge Raidillon, and here at the bottom of the hill I do a small lift just to make sure the car sticks to the right hand side, but without cutting too much of that. And we are upshifting at 255 kilometers an hour. You really need to rev out that fifth gear. Here we have got the 100 board just before the curb, and I need to brake early for this, otherwise I will mess up the corners, because you don't want to overshoot this. You just need to be patient and keep the car towards the left hand side, so you can just with a tiny lift, maybe a slight tap on the brakes, make the weight transfer back over to the right and get out of there with good acceleration. Here is the start of the curb. I might be braking short of that, slightly short of that, and I'm seeking towards the inside so I don't get all the weight transfer at once, as this is still downhill. And this is always a tricky corner for me. It's basically just a dab on the brakes and get the weight shifted back over and try to get a decent line out of there. I am not the best example of that because it's really a weak corner for me. Here we've got the 50 board, and that's a good marker for me because I need to brake slightly after it, so I'll just make my slow reflexes do the work. Hit that first apex, I could bring the car out a bit more, and then you need to bring the car back in towards a second apex, which I failed to do. Braking just before we are going on under the gantry, and all the way down to second gear. And once again, be patient. It's all about getting out of the left-hander without running wide. So you just need to keep the car tight to those apexes, and then you can power out of there. And here I'm using the start of the fence and where the wall goes from gray to dark green. Down to second gear, just let the car coast around that downhill corner. And here we are lifting a bit so we can get on the power, and that was not a good example of that because I was waiting quite a bit to get back onto the power there. That lost me some speed, but that is the general idea. And here I'm trying to upshift to sixth just as I do a small lift, so I'm sure not to run wide through that corner. And now we've got the 150 board, and that's a perfect marker for the bus stop chicane. All the way down to first gear, and here I need to force the controller to steer back over to the left, so a small touch on the brakes that usually helps the steering to react a bit faster, and we are across the line in a 2:19.975. And on the following lap I messed this up completely, so we are just going to spin the rear tires and we are jumping out. We've been driving for 19 minutes and we just need to jump straight back in and try to improve a bit more, so we carry on making our way around turn 1. But now the improvements are beginning to get smaller, and we are making our way through the S's. And can I get a good line? No, not really. Almost running wide. And towards the end of the lap we are going to get another small improvement, but it's not moving forwards as fast anymore. This is going to be a 2:19.901. And here I mess up the corner, park it in the wall. We've done 26 minutes. It's time to rewatch a replay, and now we are going to add the corner markers. And this is towards the end of the first hour, and you can see I've got those small Google Map corner markers, and they are actually really helpful. Not so much this corner, but towards the middle sector there are several corners where they ended up being a big help to me. And you can sort of see where you need to turn in, you can see where you need to apex, and you can see your exit point. And this can be really useful. You can see you've got that late apex there, and you've got the exit point. And also for this corner you can see where you need to aim the car, and you can see where the exit point is. And especially through this long corner, because you need to bring the car out wider than I did earlier and bring it back in and towards this exit point. I think I will leave these on when I try to improve further on this track. I'm still making mistakes. I am very prone to still make mistakes, but this was helping me to get sort of in the right direction and try to improve a bit. And we are making our way through these corners, and also here the corner markers were helping me. And once again, a small tap on the brakes just to force the steering to turn a bit faster towards the left so we can make it through the bus stop chicane. And this is a rather tiny improvement. We are down to 219.895. I invalidate the lap, and this was after exactly 1 hour. And only because that final improvement was a very small one, I decided to try just a tiny bit more. And we are going to jump straight to the end of this lap. We are going to get in another improvement, but it's not going to be a big one. We are going down to a 219.803, and then I accidentally hit the wall. So that was after an additional 10 minutes, and I was ready to wrap it up, but I decided to do just one more lap, and that luckily ended up being my best attempt so far. So we are coming into turn 1. We are looking for the 100 board, braking right at it, maybe just before it, and then with the slow reactions, carefully getting back onto the power. And now we are coming into Eau Rouge Raidillon, and we had a small lift up the hill just to make sure to keep the car on the line. We are upshifting at 255 kilometers per hour, and now we are looking for the 100 board, braking slightly short of it, maybe even, and I messed up these corners. You can see I went into deep for the first part of the corner, so just by turn 1, which wasn't the best, and those S's, there is time for me to find now through this rather long corner. And yeah, I'm short shifted into second gear, but I did use a bit of first as well. And that certainly wasn't the best run out of there either. And I also end up cutting a bit much of the inside, and the car doesn't really like that. And at least we can stay fully on the power out of there. Now braking short of the gantry, down to second gear. Can we be a bit more patient through these S's? It looks like it. I still had to make a small adjustment, lifting a bit. And now for these final 2 corners before the back straight-ish straight. And now we've only got this small lift and upshift to 6th gear before we are coming into the bus stop chicane. Braking at the 150 board all the way down to 1st gear, and a small dab on the brake just to get the steering back over and carefully back onto the power. And we actually got down to a 219.612. So that was a fairly big chunk at the last minute, and knowing myself well enough, I knew that this was my cue to just leave it for now after 1 hour and 15 minutes. So I parked the car, and as said, this is my first impressions run. Looking back at my best lap so far, I can see there are many easy mistakes to iron out. The trick is to string it together, and I might be in for a brain melter, but at least I've got a fairly safe time for now, even for when the aliens get on this properly and bring the goal time down even further. I hope you found this video entertaining, maybe even somewhat useful. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time. Bye bye.